Let's see what we should buy. I don't think any of these are fine because they're all like feature phones. Let's go to page 2. Unfortunately, these seem like feature phones. Even this, which is actually a feature phone. I think maybe this. Let's scroll down a bit more. And this. Let's decide what I will buy. Okay guys, this is the phone I bought, the Motorola Citrus 3G. I'm gonna wait for about a week and then I'll get the phone. After 3 days of waiting, I finally got my package here. And this is actually the $8 phone. Yes, the cheapest smartphone I could actually find on eBay. So I'm going to unbox it. It's technically a more simple box, but over here it is the package. And you actually get a micro USB connector over here, which is quite nice for this price especially, because even the micro USB alone is like at least $1 or $2. So here's the phone here. Yeah, I can't even believe I could even get a phone for like $7 or $8. Well, actually 7 years ago there was actually a ZTE Maven 3 which was for sale for $7. And why not, let's start this phone and see what it is all about. Over here is actually the Motorola Citrus, of which I actually found many for less than $10. I'm not even joking, even after tax though. So I'll see you guys in about several minutes. Okay guys, as you can see here, I finally managed to boot the phone up, and as you can see, given the phone's condition, I would say this is in quite a good condition, especially for this price. $8. Yes, I only paid $8, which is about the same as many McDonald's burgers and small meals and stuff. Let me show you guys. Yes, even at McDonald's, some like burgers are like more expensive before tax alone than this phone after tax, let alone other phones. Yes, as you can see, this double quarter pounder with cheese is likely more expensive than this phone. I'm not even joking. But as you can see, this is actually the power button, and over here is actually the micro USB port, and over here is actually the home button. And let me show you guys how to bypass the activation lock. I'm not sure if this works or not. Okay guys, let me try it again. And okay guys, yes, as you can see, communicating with server. I'm now going to try this method to actually get to the home screen, because as we all know, Verizon does disband support for like 3G and 2G, so this phone would unfortunately not work on the Verizon carrier. And I bet you guys, AT&T and T-Mobile would not even support it. Okay guys, as you can see, I'm now in the home screen. Just hit cancel. And boom, yes, as you can see, there's actually Bing instead of Google, ironically, despite this running Androids. And as you can see, this is actually the app catalog over here. Now unfortunately, this phone is quite laggy. As you can see, not only is this a 13-year-old phone, but even 13-14 years ago, this phone was already considered a budget phone. Yes, in 2010, this phone was actually considered like a budget phone compared to the iPhone 4 or the 3GS or something, which are all expensive, and the Galaxy S. This phone, along with the LG Vortex, is actually a budget phone. Now, due to the fact in 2010 this phone is around $300 unlocked, it is more comparable with an iPhone 3G than say a 3GS or 4 though. And over here is the iPhone 3G, as you can see, with the darker text. And unfortunately the battery is kind of out on this, but I'm going to power it on because this phone is actually in 4.2.1, which means by 2010 this phone is already near its end of life. Okay guys, on the left is actually the Motorola Citrus, and on the right is the iPhone 3G. And as you can see, there is actually a lot of latency on the Motorola Citrus. And the iPhone 3G, despite being 16 years old, is still very smooth. And the Motorola Citrus is only 14 years old. But even 14 years ago, this phone is already considered affordable at its time. Around $300. Yes, $300, which makes it more comparable to the iPhone 3G than, say, the 3GS or the 4. And as you can see, it is quite laggy. But the 3G feels a lot more smooth. It feels a lot more immaculate. And I actually bought the 3G for about $15. Even though this phone is also in immaculate condition. And if you were to go in the back, the 3G is made of polycarbonate plastic, which is a lot more premium, whilst this is essentially made of very, very cheap plastic over here. It does feel kind of comfortable and easy to fit in your palm. But as you can see, the screen is actually made, I do believe, of plastic. I don't really know, but it kind of feels plasticky to me compared to like glass here. This feels a lot more premium than this. And as for the screen size, the 3G, as we all know, does have a 3.5-inch display, whilst this, the Motorola Citrus, has a 3-inch display. And if you were to go to the back, you would actually see a 2-megapixel and a 3-megapixel camera. Now let's move on to the software. I'll show you guys. This phone does run Android 2.1 Eclair, which was already outdated by 2010. Because in 2010 there's actually 2.2 Froyo. Yeah, I know this phone is really, really laggy. It does take some recalibrating to even go anywhere, but why not? I'm going to go to settings and then about phone and scroll all the way down to firmware. As you can see, 2.1, which is quite outdated. And unlike many modern phones, this phone does have a removable battery. And if we were to lift off, then we would see this phone has a 1150 milliamp hour battery, which is comparable to the 3G and pathetically small by today's standards. And here is actually the boot screen. As you can see, the Motorola logo, and you would actually see the carrier logo soon. And it does look quite dope, especially compared to today's boot screens where it really only shows the logo. And now it does take some time to boot. Okay guys, as you can see, the carrier logo, it's quite dope, to be honest. But unfortunately there's no like startup sound. Apologies, there is actually boot sound. I'll show you guys. As you can see, that is the boot sound. It is quite dope. And of course, there are actually widgets up there. You've actually listened to the boot up sound, so why not? I'll talk about the phone for a sec. Now, just like I said, this phone does have an 1150 mAh battery, but what I did not say yet is the battery percentage. There is no way to enable the battery percentage on this phone, just like the iPhone original and the iPhone 3G. So you're stuck seeing this. Yes, it is not so detailed. It is kind of vague. So you don't really know how much percentage you have on this phone. Unless it does say like low, you only could see a bar. Which means you do have to essentially infer the percentage of the battery. Kind of like that of some of the older iPhones. And due to the fact this phone is not computationally efficient, you do have very poor battery utilization. So you can do very few tasks from 100 to 0 as opposed to the original iPhone or iPhone 3G, where you can still do a lot more because this phone is insanely laggy. Let me show you guys based on internet usage. As you can see, there is actually a ton of latency here, and ironically the browser still works, but you cannot really use many websites. And here is the keyboard. It is really, really teeny tiny. You can barely even use the keyboard without typing a few misspelled words. Yeah, I'm not even joking. You would essentially misspell all the time just with these like really small keyboards. They're like pathetic in today's standards, especially when I'm so accustomed to new phones. And why not, let's search for iPhone. I know it is so pathetic and so small, but you can still barely use the internet. Barely. What I meant is you cannot load Apple or Microsoft, but you could actually load Google, which is like the bare minimum of the internet. And unlike the original iPhone, this uses a more modern version of Google.com, as you can see here. And now why not, let's go to iPhone. Yeah, as you can see, the web page is not available, unfortunately. In contrast, you could actually search a lot of stuff on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, which is what I have over here. And as you can see, the websites are just far better in every single way possible. Now, even though you could do the most rudimentary tasks such as use the internet, take pictures and videos, as well as listen to music, as this phone does have a 3.5mm headphone jack, unfortunately you cannot really call anymore, as Verizon did disband 3G support, unfortunately, so you cannot really call anything. I'm not even sure if you could call 911 or not. I'm not sure if it will, and I don't want to check it out because I don't want a police to come to my house and then arrest me for like annoying the police. And as you can see here, it does take a while, but unfortunately I waited for about 10 or 20 seconds. It did not call, so I'm just gonna leave it at there. You cannot call. No, you cannot, even if you can do rudimentary tasks. And even though I recently resetted the phone, there is actually a ton of bloatware, as you can see, like Facebook and stuff. You even have like Quick Office, MySpace. Yes, remember MySpace? It was so ubiquitous during the mid-2000s, but now nobody uses MySpace anymore. It's certainly like depreciated. And as you can see, there is actually Game WeWorld and also YouTube. But I'm not sure if YouTube is of any use because this is a really decrepit version of YouTube. Yes, as you can see, there's a problem starting up. You can't really do much on this phone at all. And let's see the Game WeWorld. Yes, this is a really simple game. Now, even though there's a lot of pre-installed bloatware, I do believe there's only like half a gig or even 1 gig of storage. I'm not even sure, but it does say available space as 170 megabytes. Yes, you heard it correctly, megabytes. With this little storage, you would definitely want to buy a microSD card for sure, because this phone does support up to 32 gigs of microSD space. So if you want to listen to like any music or anything, then definitely buy a microSD card. As you can see, the speakers are quite loud on this phone. And the speaker is actually here in the bottom of the phone. Here's some more ringtones. I could even find a Motorola one as well.
Hello, Moto.
And as you can see, this is actually the sound and display settings. And as for display, just like I mentioned, this phone does have a 3-inch display. But what's more egregious than a 3-inch display is actually the resolution. The screen resolution is a paltry 240 by 320, which is actually 133 pixels per inch. Yes, that low of a number, even lower than the original iPhone with 163 pixels per inch. So the screen is really paltry, but one benefit this phone has over the 3G and original iPhone is actually, you guessed it, a background. As you can see, you could actually change the wallpaper for the home screen, not just the lock screen. And if you were to press this button over here, you could actually adjust the home screen. As you can see, you could even select wallpaper from media gallery and stuff. And what I did not mention yet is the TFT display. As you can see, this phone does not have a very good viewing angle. It actually has a very narrow viewing angle, unlike that of some of the more modern iPhones. And as for brightness, I do believe this could only go up to a few hundred nits. And despite the fact the bezels are astronomically big, especially in today's standards, the bezels on this phone are quite reasonable for 2010. But as you can see, there are actually asymmetrical bezels, because the top bezels are actually much smaller than that of the bottom bezels. And of course, because this is 2010, there is actually no water resistance of any means. So if you were to drop this phone, you're basically screwed up. As for processor, this phone does have a 528 megahertz single core processor with about 256 megs of RAM. So don't expect it to be very fast, because this phone is going to be really slow. Even in terms of the most basic and rudimentary task, you can still see noticeable lag on this phone. And I do believe this phone is barely even usable in today's standards. It could barely hold up in 2024 standards by any means. And it actually uses Wi-Fi 802.11 BG, which is actually the very simple Wi-Fi. And it does have Bluetooth 2.0, just like the 3G, so you could barely even connect it to really anything. And lastly, let's talk about the cameras. The rear camera is actually 3 megapixels, and luckily it does support video recording. Unfortunately, however, there is no flash, nor is there any selfie camera. So why not? I'm going to show you guys the camera, if it is even plausible. That is the main bug. Unfortunately, you do need an SD card to even record. Now, before I show you guys the camera sample, let me show you guys one neat party trick of this phone. As you can see, that is a camera button. Yes, a camera button, just like that of the iPhone 16 series. So if you were to press this button, it actually does nothing, so you do have to go to the camera app. I do believe so. And that is where you could actually take pictures. Oh shit! You still have to insert an SD card before using a camera? What the hell is this? This is a video sample of the Motorola Citrus. Yes, the $8 phone. I did buy a MicroSD card so I could actually do a camera sample. And as you can see, the videos are quite, let's be honest, bad. Yes, I'm now going to go to one of the restaurants, and I'll see you guys soon. Unfortunately, it only allows like 30-second recording, so you might hear it stop sometime. Now over here looks more like it. This is actually a HOA neighborhood in Massachusetts. And as you can see, yes, this is actually an older late 90s car over here, as well as, you guessed it, an RV. This camera really is reminiscent of a late 90s or early 2000s camera. And let me show you guys my grandparents. Okay guys, you've actually seen the camera test. Even though the photos are kind of okay, the videos are very pathetic and reminiscent of many 90s videos, as you can see with my grandparents' 1998 video. And lastly, I just wanted to show you guys some more features. As you can see, this is actually to change the home screen and stuff. There are several different wallpapers in here. You could actually choose from the media gallery as well. As you can see, here's several wallpapers, and this is to go to the home screen, and this is actually the back button, and I do believe this is actually a search bar. You could actually search for things. And over here is actually the dial up over here. So in case if somebody is calling you, you could actually hit this and actually accept, and this is to hang up or decline over here. And lastly, this is actually the backtrack button, but I'm not sure how it actually works or how to walk. But as you can see, you could actually scroll around kind of decently fast. Sort of. But in essence, this is actually a Motorola Blur UI over here. So really old UI. And finally, I'm just going to show you guys how loud the speakers are. So I do have Ganz Klein Nacht Music, which is actually a lost Mozart piece, which was just recently found just 2 weeks ago. Okay guys, over here it is. Okay, guys, I'm just gonna stop, and here's the conclusion. Despite the fact this is an intriguing phone because it is only $8, I do not think it is worth it. For like $30, you don't even need a micro SD card or anything. In fact, the $30 phone I reviewed several weeks ago called the Blu View 5 actually has a far better camera, far better performance, far better battery, and is actually usable for phone calls and even rudimentary tasks like gaming and internet browsing and stuff. This phone is essentially unusable without an SD card. Like, you could not even use this phone at all except maybe search for Google. That's about it, in my opinion. So say if you want a backup phone or you want your first phone for your child, then definitely buy the Blu View 5. But this is just a look at what the cheapest phone actually is. And it is not very good. In fact, you could actually get a far bigger screen, a 6.5-inch screen, if you were to pay like $20 more for an actual phone rather than like a toy or something. So thank you guys for watching. Please give a big thumbs up, subscribe for more videos, and I'm gonna see you guys soon. And last up, let me talk to you guys about the battery. The battery only lasted around 1 or 2 hours maximum for me, even under medium usage, so kind of problematic.